who knew that Bill Belichick post-coaching was going to be Chase Daniel in terms of having a million gigs?
This has been the best guest appearance we have ever had. Scoop City is brought to you by Thursday Night Football on Prime Video. Welcome into Scoop City. I'm the Athletic Senior NFL Insider, Dianna Russini.
And I'm Chase Daniel. I played 14 years in the NFL.
Chase, we had a big football sandwich for week one. Games on Thursday, Friday, tons of games on Sunday, game on Monday night. I feel like Saturday was like a nice day of rest, along with college football, of course. And then now we got to wait a few days to get back in there. But didn't it feel just so good to finally be able to just sit and watch?
I like Friday football. I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about it. There needs to be a game on Thursday, Friday, Saturday's college football, Sunday's NFL. Do it again Monday. Give us Tuesday, Wednesday to rinse, repeat, and then start it all over again, baby.
Loved Friday football. And I don't think a lot of people like it, though, because people have their plans. Right. It's high school football. Yeah. I like it because all I kept thinking when I was watching the Packers and the Eagles was, I don't have anything to do tomorrow. I have nothing to do. Whereas, when you watch games on Thursday night, you watch games on Sunday and Monday night, it's, all right, we got work tomorrow. I got to get up. We have the day. So Friday was a nice little treat and a nice treat for Philadelphia fans who got to see the Eagles come out in a sloppy game, but they were able to get that victory after really just what seemed just like a travel day from hell. 10 hours on a plane. Awful. So
3 turnovers for the Philly and Jordan Love. Just bad.
I know
news.
The Jordan Love injury too. That was obviously one of the bigger stories of the weekend because just crushing. He just signs this big contract. We spent some time with him when they practiced with the Broncos, and he was just so ready for this season and so much confidence in what this offense can do. So he's expected to miss at least 3 weeks. You don't really want to put a time on a situation like this, as they're going to just try to continue.
It's going to be more. It's going to be more. I've dealt with some players in the past that have MCLs, especially in quarterbacks. I just think it's at least 3 weeks. Like it is a grade 1-2. Like it is better than they thought, but it's still really bad. He's going to have a brace on. He's going to have it's not good.
Yeah. And so look, the Packers are doing what they should do, right? Which is try to look at the situation, try to figure out a timeline, take a look at the veteran quarterback market right now. Ryan Tannehill is out there. They had conversations in the building about perhaps bringing Ryan Tannehill in. Ryan Tannehill is represented by the same agent as the general manager of the Green Bay Packers. So it's an easy conversation. Hey, does this fit? Is this something that works for us? But we're at a point now where the Packers, they want to ride with Malik Willis. He's going to be the starter for this game. And we'll see what type of performance Malik is able to give the Green Bay Packers against the Colts. And then, I'm sure they'll figure out what they want to do at the quarterback position. Obviously, they're hoping that he can run Matt LaFleur's offense and have some success. But that wasn't the only team dealing with a lot of adversity over this weekend, right? We saw the Cleveland Browns with Deshaun Watson struggling, but then we saw some greatness out of the Houston Texans, especially with some of their new additions. Jim Harbaugh gets his first win. We had so many just great stories.
Chargers, baby, let's go.
They figured it out, and they figured out
They're winning differently, though, too, which is crazy.
The Detroit Lions were able to keep off the Rams, taking advantage of the fact that they were having some problems there with their run defense for Los Angeles. So, look, we've got so much to get to. On top of the debut of the great, the GOAT, Tom Brady in the broadcast booth. So, we're not some sports media podcast, but we thought, why not bring on the best media reporter? So we brought in our very own, The Athletic's Andrew Marchand. So he's going to join the show later and take us inside of what he saw, what he thought, what people around the league are talking about, what people are saying in the television industry about Tom Brady's first performance. But let's get to it. Here's what I'm hearing around the league. So we had so much action over the weekend, and obviously we had tons of questions about how all the teams would look. And I was having a conversation with the general manager on Monday morning about what week one's all about. Is week one a lie, or is it a truth teller? Because I think in some situations it's one game. You do not know the story of your team in just one performance. But at the same time,
Unless you do.
But at the same time,
unless
you do, right? So we spent, especially here on Scoop City, because we started this podcast at the start of training camp. So we've touched on all the big stories all summer long. And so we finally got a chance to see all of it in live action. So I thought what we would do is just sort of rip through all the different topics that were interesting from week one's games and figure out, all right, is this a lie or is this a truth about what this is? So I figured we'd start.
I love that.
I figured we'd start with the Cleveland Browns. Okay, so they played the Dallas Cowboys. It's just a few hours after the Dallas Cowboys make Dak Prescott the highest paid player in football. They get the deal done. He gets guaranteed money that's just $1 million off from Deshaun Watson's contract of guaranteed money.
$231 million.
Right? So you have really just $1 million in difference between the two quarterbacks, yet on the field, it looked like a lot more money in between these two players.
I want to ask you about that quarterback really quickly, because just Dak, like 2 seconds. Why did they give him, Dianna, $5 million over the second highest paid quarterback? I don't get it.
Because they knew if they were going to allow him to hit the market, right, and be a free agent if they don't sign him up, he was going to cost that. So the agent was able to convince him that Chase, I had a head coach on Friday afternoon when I was putting together my column for the weekend say that he thought that somebody in the free agent quarterback market would make 70. And I'm like, would you
shut your
stop?
Mouth. Brock Purdy's due up next year. If he wins the Super Bowl, $70 million. Brock Purdy, I'm just saying.
Maybe there's a little bit of goofiness behind the seven, a little fluff on the $70 million. But it's gonna happen one day, and we're gonna be like, remember when we thought it was crazy a quarterback made $70 million? But just the fact that Dak Prescott is making $60 million is tremendous. Yep. But really, the story of the game was this Cowboys defense just causing so much havoc and making Deshaun Watson look pretty much uncomfortable and insecure a lot of the game. So
pretty much, he was very uncomfortable the whole game. It was hard to watch, Dianna.
Was this a lie to you about who Deshaun Watson is, or is this the truth about who Deshaun Watson is?
I mean, this is the truth, Dianna. And when you watch the film and when you turn it on, and I watched it twice, the all 22 twice more today. I watched the game live because it was, Brady and the Cowboys. I got to watch them. And it just looked like it was too much for him. And when I say too much, meaning the processing of which he goes through his reads looked like he didn't know what he was doing. And you got to imagine Kevin Stefanski. Yeah. I mean, That's what everyone's trying to figure it out. And you got to imagine Kevin Stefanski's offense and Ken Dorsey's offense, they've prepped them, right? This is an offense that has the passing concepts of like the Rams, Shanahan, McVay, Dorsey tree, so Buffalo, and then the run game of Stefanski, and Stefanski's calling it. And it just, my mind goes to, is Deshaun the right guy for the job? And I don't know if he is right now. I don't know if I would call him broken yet, because it is week one. But I will say, and everyone is talking about it, but I personally agree with, you got to imagine, and we talked about it last week on our show, Dianna, that DTR or Jameis Winston or somebody outside of the building via trade will run that offense better than Deshaun Watson is.
I still believe that he can make adjustments and improvements. I know that the building thinks that they can. I know his teammates, David Njoku was a guest on our show. He talked all about how he thinks Deshaun Watson's elite. And he wasn't saying, he could have easily just said to us, he's good. He didn't have to use the word elite. Yeah. He said elite.
He's talking about his own quarterback. The thing that bothers me the most, Dianna, about his performance is the lack of self-confidence from him. And that's not, when I watched 2020, 2021, like, That's not the Deshaun Watson I am used to seeing. I say used to seeing. It's been 4 years since he played, like full season. However, I just want him to get back to going, like, I'm really good at football. I have confidence. It looks like he's like aiming throws out there, which is the worst thing you can do for a quarterback. You just want to be able to let it rip. I didn't see him let it rip. The couple times he let it rip, he overthrew Amari Cooper on a deep route down the right sideline. He threw multiple balls out of bounds. He took sacks after sack after sack. A lot of that has to do with Mike Zimmer scheme, but at the end of the day, you look at PFF, there's no Browns offensive lineman. Pro Football Focus, it's what, like, for people out there, I'm saying PFF like you guys know it. PFF is a tool that people use to track the performance of players. And so Pro Football Focus told us that there were no Browns offensive linemen that gave up sacks. So the sacks were on Deshaun Watson. And when I look at the film, he's holding the ball too long. He's getting out of the pocket. In fact, the whole thing about Kevin Stefanski and Ken Dorsey is have a good offensive lineman up front. Their highest graded players were 4 offensive linemen. So that just gives you a little context into what Deshaun is doing. And it's not good right now.
Yeah. And you have to wonder what the organization is going to do with the mental side of this, because I think what picture you're painting here is a quarterback that's lost his spirit. I think that's another part of this, right? There isn't a lot of rallying. Do you remember when we watched the Baltimore game against Kansas City and they're down and Lamar's yelling at the team and he's screaming, he's trying to get them going even after they made mistakes. And I'm not saying that the way to be is rah-rah. I'm not a firm believer that rah-rah gets you things. But the great quarterbacks that we've watched over the years, that we've seen Tom Brady, and he's earned that, obviously, get in the faces of his teammates. There's just no juice in Cleveland. And it's bothering me because I look at the roster and they have potential to be so good. So,
Are you hearing anything about a timeline though? Like how many weeks are they going to give them? Because that's the question everyone's asking. Quite honestly, I have no idea.
The leash is long in Cleveland, Chase.
Okay.
There's no tight leash. It's Deshaun Watson. They need to figure out how to make Deshaun Watson of 4 years ago. That's the goal. So they're going to give this coaching staff the time to do that, and they're going to hope they get this right. Meantime,
I'm saying the leash on Deshaun. How long is the leash on Deshaun?
First of all, Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry just signed new contracts. They're fine. For Deshaun, the leash is long. The leash is very long for Deshaun. The ownership wants this to work. They have given the Cleveland Browns everything they possibly could use and need to develop him and to make this work in Cleveland. It's just going to come down to whether or not there's still potential there. I think the reason why so many fans watching the Cleveland Browns are struggling with the performance of Deshaun Watson is they still can't figure out what the problem is. Yet there they are watching Baker Mayfield not only have juice, but be successful, have leadership skills, enjoying his experience with the Tampa Bay Bucks and leading them to a win. While Cleveland right now starts the season 0-1, another team starting the season 0-1, the New York Giants. Okay, so Daniel Jones coming off an ACL injury, his camp always seemed off. Right, we brought on Dan Duggan, our Athletic Giants beat reporter, to ask him. Remember, we had him talking about like what's camp been like, and he was like, not great. Like he told us, right? So when you talk about a truth or a lie, what would you call Daniel's performance after seeing one game against a Brian Flores defense, the Minnesota Vikings looking more prepared, looking more in shape? What'd you think?
Oh man, this of all the topics that we're going to talk about today is the most difficult for me to answer. I'm going to go with a truth. I think that Daniel Jones doesn't have much more time if he continues to play like this. A lot of injuries. We saw the Hard Knocks Joe Shane, like Mara, the owner, like going back and forth, like we're good with our quarterback. We're giving him a chance. He's making $40+ million. But Brian Daboll, the head coach, has to address quarterback concerns if Daniel Jones is the starter. After the first week, I literally, right before the show, got on Twitter just trying to get news, and I saw that, and I said, are we really doing this in week 1? And it's week 1, Dianna.
See,
yeah, he didn't play well.
I saw your tweet, by the way, and I know what you're saying right there. I had the same reaction. Like, we're really asking Brian Daboll? But
Yes.
you talk about leashes. The reason why this question is being asked after week 1 in New York, because we saw the team try to trade up to get a quarterback, right? We know they're out on him, right? So if they were out on him then, what makes it different now? And especially if you have a quarterback like Drew Lock who's sitting behind him, you have Tommy DeVito. We got a little taste of the DeVito magic last year. Granted, there's a lot of reasons. There's a lot of reasons for his for that success, and let's just say it wasn't all on Tommy. But look, let's not take that away from him. The patience in New York is gone. It's gone. It's sailed. That ship has sailed. So it's ridiculous that Brian Daboll has to answer this question. The fact that he had to come out and say that Daniel Jones is starting week 2 is nuts. But it just goes to tell you that it's probably going to get asked a lot.
I don't think that they're going to be this great team. I mean, realistically, 6-7 wins for them would be a good year. It's a rebuild year. Malik Neighbors, a rookie wide receiver that they drafted with, I think, number 6 overall. He's your top target. That offensive line is the issue that Joe Shane, as we all saw, really tried to solidify. So it's going to come down to how that offensive line plays. But they're in a very difficult division with the Eagles and the Cowboys, who are 2 of the top teams in the NFC. Forget about the NFC East. So I just don't see a world here in what you're going to move on to Drew Lock, who is their technical backup. I love Drew, and he went to Missouri. He might give them a fighter's chance, and it's just how long is a leash there? It must be, from media members that are asking questions, it must be one of those things that he's going to have to deal with every day. And look, if you're a quarterback, Dianna, and you're hearing your name in the media, it sucks. You're talked about like that. I don't care what it's like. But it is the storyline. But when it messes with your self-confidence. I don't care what you say. It almost makes you want to go out and prove the media wrong, which is the complete wrong way to play the game. Your priorities are messed up. However, that could be going on in his mind. I don't know for a fact. I'm just saying from my perspective, what I've learned playing the game, it's not the right way to do it.
Chase, I get upset if somebody tweets me, "You're dumb." I can't imagine what that would feel like. He's a human being. Of course it's going to bother him.
You're not dumb. Relax.
Well, wait, do we have to have a conversation of whether or not,
hey, you got where I was going with it.
But look, but with that being said, first of all, forget the media. Fans are waiting outside MetLife Stadium when the man is walking to his car screaming at him that he stinks. It's awful the way he's being treated right now. But unfortunately, it comes with the position. The pressure is on the New York Giants. The pressure is on everyone. And look, it did not help. I am sorry. It did not help the situation when Saquon Barkley goes out there on Friday night in Brazil in his first game in a Philadelphia Eagles uniform and catches a pass for a touchdown and runs in 2. He has a hat trick. And
3-piece.
I mean, he was doing things that I had never seen him do in New York.
Look, here's where I want to end it. I know we got to get going, but it just came to me. You got to imagine that Giants fans, probably not Giants front office, maybe Giants front office, I don't know. They're looking forward to this next draft because there are 3 college quarterbacks out there. Shadur Sanders out of Colorado, Quinn Ewers out of Texas, and Cam Ward out of the University of Miami that look like legitimate number 1 prospects. So you got to imagine in the back of their mind, all right, we didn't take one this year. It was the deepest draft, 6 quarterbacks drafted in the first round in a long time. But that's probably where some Giants fans' heads are going.
Look, they might be able to turn this thing around next week. They got the Commanders, and then they got the Cowboys, and then the Bengals. We'll see what they're at. That's purely a mixed bag of opponents here. So, but obviously getting it straightened out against the Commanders with a rookie quarterback, this should be a win. The start to their season was always going to be really important for this Giants team, knowing that they had Sam Darnold and a rookie quarterback, and now they're down 0-1. A team that got a really big win against a really good Colts team, which you were telling me all summer that the Colts were good, and I kept telling you, go away. You were right. The Colts have a really good team this year, and Anthony Richardson. Look, I still think he's got to improve in some areas in terms of throwing the ball, but he is a dynamic player. the Texans made some big additions in the offseason, right? Joe Mixon, Stephon Diggs, and Danielle Hunter, right? Joe Mixon, 30 carries, 159 yards, a touchdown. Stephon Diggs, 6 receptions, 33 yards, 2 touchdowns. And Hunter looked pretty good out there, okay? So with all these additions, did the Houston Texans get better? Is it a lie or is it a tell?
Oh, it's a tell, for sure. I mean, Joe Mixon, 30 carries traded to Houston from the Bengals for 160 yards. Workhorse. Did you see the Bengals get beat by the New England Patriots, which nobody thought? You think they could have used Joe Mixon? Oh, Stephon Diggs. Okay, you come over from Buffalo, 2 touchdowns, not a lot of yards. Who cares? Touchdowns are the ones that matter. Hey, Buffalo Bills were getting beat 17-3 at halftime by the Arizona Cardinals before Josh Allen went superhero on us. Like, you think they didn't? Okay. And like you were saying, Danielle Hunter too. Like, the dude, all these additions, I love it. It's hard not to get excited about this Houston Texans team. And look, when you're a quarterback, offensive rookie of the year, CJ Stroud, I'm going to put you in his mind right now. Okay. He got there last year. The Texans were, okay. They have this special run. And you're probably thinking, all right, I just got to get better. We're going to run it back with the same guys, Nico Collins, Tank Dell, all these guys. When your GM and your head coach decide this is our Super Bowl window, and you go out and you get Joe Mixon, Stephon Diggs, Danielle Hunter, you are beyond yourself. Like, it makes it feel like, man, the team is all in. And when a team is all in, specifically from a locker room perspective, these guys, okay, they just get to talking like, man, okay, we like this move. We got Joe Mixon. Oh man, we like this move. It just brings a party to the locker room. Honestly, like it just, the dynamic shifts in the locker room, and that whole dynamic in the building has shifted because of CJ Stroud and DeMeco Ryans. The future for the Texans the next 10 years is super bright. These are legitimate stars. This is a legitimate contender with the Chiefs in the AFC.
Yeah, and they're building a culture there, right, which was missing in Houston for a while when they had all sorts of issues and problems with coaching and the Deshaun Watson situation. So it's been really cleaned up, and you're seeing little things, right? You're seeing guys like Nico Collins, right, like willingness to block. He's humble. He's got a good attitude. Stephon Diggs post-game going crazy, like just really good things that tell you that they're building towards something and they're doing this together. I know Diggs says this is the happiest he's been in a long time, and I take his word for it, and I think that stuff's really important, and it's going to matter down the line. All right, we're going to take a quick break here, but when we get back, we got more lies and tells from week 1. We've got more quarterbacks to talk about. We'll be right back. Back here in Scoop City, where Chase and I are getting into our new game called Truth or a Lie. So we had so much conversation about everybody and all these different teams over this summer, and we finally got to see them perform. So we really want to figure out if week 1 is the truth of who they are, or is it a lie? So let's talk about the Tennessee Titans. All right. They made some incredible moves in the offseason in bolstering up this roster, right? The speed of Calvin Ridley I've been hearing about, even additions on the coaching staff with offensive line coach Bill Callahan, the best to do it. So it has always been about one thing, and it's Will Levis. Can Will Levis have success? He's got a brand new head coach. Everything about Tennessee is just so new, different. You're listening to the players talk about it. It's changed. So then they go to Chicago, and they come out and they look incredible in offense. And you think, wow, they are living up to the hype of this. And then it's just an absolute meltdown. So I ask you, Will Levis specifically in week 1, is that Will Levis? Is that the truth? Or that's a lie?
It's a lie. It's a lie. I think Will's going to do fine in Tennessee. And look, we've talked about it on the show before. It is always going to come down specifically for the Tennessee Titans to the quarterback. They put a lot, and when I mean a lot, I mean a lot of firepower around Will Levis. They go out and get Tony Pollard. What did Tony Pollard do? Had an amazing game. I'm going to look in the other side of the ball quickly, even though it's not that defense for Tennessee. Okay, you're going to look down the road in 10 games, 12 games, and they're going to be a top 10 defense in this league. Okay, so that's going to help out Will Levis. L'Jarius Sneed comes over from the Chiefs. It's all going to hinge on how Levis is able to pick up the offense. When you're a new quarterback, specifically with a lot of pressure thrown on you, he really didn't have, I want to say, pressure last year because no one expected anything out of the Tennessee Titans. He came in off the bench to replace Ryan Tannehill with injury. And I just think when you do that, you play freer as a quarterback. You don't have to worry about all the outside expectations. You don't have to worry about all the obligations and duties of a starter. You don't have to worry about doing like the production meetings. You don't have to worry about all this stuff that goes into being a starter. Now, not only are you the starter, you're the bona fide starter because that's what they built around you. And externally and internally, they're believing it, rightfully so. He's got to show some stuff. The face of Hellman's Mayo, which is crazy, by the way. I don't understand that. But when
Wait,
he's
you don't understand
going about
why
his
he's
business,
the face of
yeah.
Mayo?
Why did you do Mayo? Why did you do Mayo, bro?
Because no, there's a reason. Because
Why?
I think he like dips bananas in it, or
He puts it in his coffee. That's weird.
Oh, that's what it
move
is.
on. Yeah, it's weird.
I'm
makes no
mixing
sense at
all of his weird shorts. He eats the
Yeah.
skin of a banana, but puts mayo in his coffee. Yeah,
The
it's.
dude is.
I think your point though is he definitely carries himself like a starting
Yes.
quarterback, like the franchise
Yes.
guy,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
I definitely felt a little weird about the Mayo campaign only because I know
A lot of people around the league did. Like, you haven't done anything as a starter, and you're on a national Mayo commercial. Mayo, first of all, but a national commercial? Like, that's a little bit off-putting to some teammates. I'm not saying, like, guys like him. I'm saying from an outsider's perspective, like, that was a little weird for me.
Yeah, I do think he still has a lot to prove. I think the Tennessee Titans are going to try to convince themselves that he's the guy. They want to believe he's the guy. He's super likable. He's a team leader. He's great in that building. I just think he has to get better. He just didn't look like he could see a lot of pressures either. There were some instances in the game where it looked like he was just struggling, and we've seen that before in college with him. So it wasn't shocking.
Processing of the game.
Correct.
Yeah.
Now look, Mason Rudolph is the backup quarterback. I don't think anyone is getting questions right now of are we.
There's no way.
There's just no way.
Yeah.
They're gonna see this out here and try to see if they can get the best of Will. But here's my question for you, Chase. The things that we're talking about, just that lollipop throw he made that you can't do. You can't do it.
You talking about the pick six?
Yeah, that essentially lost them the game, right? It's just brutal. My question for you as a quarterback, is this stuff fixable? Like when we talk about Will Levis and the mistakes he's making, can Callahan get him to a point where this is better?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, that's what Callahan, the head coach for the Titans, that's his job, right? Like, I don't look at Will Levis's performance, and that's why, I said what I said at the beginning of the segment. It's a lie. This isn't who Will Levis is. He made one boneheaded play. Okay, the Bears scored on a pick six and a special teams touchdown. They had a 17-point lead on the road, Soldier Field. Yeah, it's a heartbreaking, gut-wrenching way to lose, as he said. However, like, it's one game out of 17. The biggest thing you want to see from quarterbacks, and even Jim Harbaugh said this in the locker room, the head coach for the Chargers, to his team, but specifically I want to say about quarterbacks, the biggest jump you're going to make in the year is from week 1 to week 2. So I think it'll be a better judge of performance and who Will Levis is in week 2 if he's able to fix those mistakes he showed in week 1.
All right, so anytime we talk about the Buffalo Bills, right, this entire offseason, you and I have said this team is going to win on the back of Josh Allen. He was a guest of Scoop City last week, and we talked all about all the different weapons that they lost and the weapons that they gained. And they go out, they get a awesome win against the Cardinals, 34-28, and Allen blew me away. Just
I mean, yeah.
doing what we all know Josh Allen is great at. He put it all out on the field there. But here's the problem. Is the loss of Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis going to haunt them? And it makes you wonder. So the question here, the Bills' lack of weapons.
Yep.
Is this a truth or a lie?
It's a truth. 100% a truth. You know what else is a truth? Josh Allen is that dude. He played unbelievable. When you look at the game, Dianna, and you really break it down, it was a tale of two halves. It was 17-3 for a while. And Josh Allen, with 2 minutes left in the first half, had a grand total of 2 passing attempts. That tells me that they didn't want him to lose a game. Okay, what else it told me was after that 2-minute drive for a touchdown, hey, Josh Allen, okay, go win us this game. Go do what you do and go win us this game. But also it's the full Josh Allen experience, right? Because he also had a league-leading 76th turnover since 2020, easily the most in the NFL over that time. So he's going to turn the ball over, but he's going to make plays like this. I think, Dianna, and this is not a hot take, but I want to say it. Josh Allen, if he continues to play like he did with the lack of weapons, and the Bills win 10 or 11 games this year, give him the MVP. Because I'm telling you right now, like Keon Coleman, Shakir, James Cook, Mac Hollins, Dawson Knox, those aren't, like, Dawson's great. Those aren't superstars. Okay? So if he's able to carry this football team, who knows what their defense will be, and they get 10 wins, he's the MVP in my book.
I just don't know if they're going to be able to have that much success with it always being on Josh. I think it's a
You're
really
going to get the experience.
Big ask. You are. The experience, the good, the bad, and you just hope it's a lot more good than bad with what they were able to do there. And look, there was definitely some chatter in the offseason about Buffalo in terms of what they're doing and then moving on from Stephon Diggs, that they're aware that this wasn't going to be an easy season. They know this. They're not headed into this the way they did even a year or 2 years ago where it felt Super Bowl or bust. This certainly feels like we got to this is going to be gritty. We're to figure this out week to week.
Yeah, explain that to me, because you're saying so they knew that they're going to have to get gritty and win. They're going to run the football like down the stretch. The OC Joe Brady took over for Ken Dorsey, and they started running the ball more. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Like they got to do it a different way than they
They
have
do.
in Buffalo?
They have to adjust, right?
Wow,
because
that's really
they
cool.
don't have studs the way they have in the past.
Yeah.
We don't really know what happened there with the Diggs Allen relationship in the end there, but it appears, for everyone's sake, a divorce, so to speak, was probably the best thing for them. All right, my last one here, and we mentioned it before. He's a friend of the show. Saquon Barkley headed into the season. There was some chatter in the New York area that Joe Shane, the general manager, made the right decision not valuing the running back position, that they didn't need the best offensive player anymore. They didn't need to pay Saquon Barkley, that trading him was going to be a big and better move for the New York Giants later on in the season. So is it a truth or a lie that Saquon Barkley's best days are behind him?
Oh, it's a lie. His best days are in front of him. Come on. I'm not going to lie. I was impressed with him. And not only was I impressed, I was surprised. And
wait, why were you
might
surprised?
have to call me because as running backs get older, they tend to lack production. And that's exactly what Joe Shane and the Giants decided not to pay the amount of money that Saquon Barkley got. And so I was a little bit skeptical. I'm gonna be honest with you. And then I saw the game film, and I was like, 24 carries is a lot for an older running back. 109 yards, 2 touchdowns. They ran a wheel route, Dianna, like up the sideline from the opposite side of the field. Like he came all the way across and he just running by guys. I'm like, dude, this is really impressive.
Okay, but
it's one of those things. No, look, because I want to say this, and I'm not petty, okay? But the first thing I thought of after the hat trick, the 3-piece of touchdowns, was like, what do you think John Mara's thinking with that whole scene and Hard Knocks, and his hands are down in his face? We can't let go of our best player. Oh my gosh. He just took it. He just stabbed him in the heart. He right there.
If we trade Saquon Barkley to the Philadelphia Eagles, I'm going to lose a lot of sleep, was the exact quote, is what he said. And
you're going to be sleepless.
And there's no way that was easy. You know, I've had this conversation before that, people in the league don't really care about that kind of stuff. It's just, guys don't look at it as, oh, look at him now. We let him go and he's having success. We don't care anymore. We're indifferent towards it. That's not true. That is not true. Not someone like Saquon Barkley, who is the face of this organization. So, congrats to Saquon, just looking like he was having the time of his life. I don't think he's really stopped celebrating. Awesome. His Instagram's been really fun lately. He's just posted all the pictures of how happy he is. But my one last question on Philly, because you've been so great about painting a picture of what this offense is going to look like under Kellen Moore. What do you think Kellen Moore did really well to help Saquon have success that was actually a little surprising to you?
Well, it is actually such a great question, and I did some digging, and it's because of motion. And Chase, what's motion? Motion is where a guy starts on, the left side of the formation, and he runs across to the other side of the motion, he stops, or like he does like an orbit motion. Well, Chase, what's an orbit motion? Orbit motion is where you go behind the quarter. All these different types of motions. The Eagles, really under Nick Sirianni as offensive coordinator, because he was the one calling plays. Last year, they used motion 35% of the time. It was easily the least in the NFL, not even close. Week 1, Kellen Moore, 67% of the snaps he motioned. Chase, well, tell me about motion. Why does that unlock defenses? It'll give you man zone reads. It'll tell you exactly what the defense is doing. And you know who was the biggest help from that motion was Jalen Hurts, because when they were motioning, he was 16 of 19, 220 yards, 2 touchdowns. When they didn't motion, 2 interceptions. Saquon Barkley had a lot of those catches. It's a huge deal in Kellen Moore's offense, and it frees Saquon up to have one-on-one matchups with linebackers and safeties, which he's shown that he can win.
Well, obviously, it sounds like the running back position was vital to a Kellen Moore offense, which makes so much sense why Howie Roseman was willing to pay probably above market price to get Saquon in that building. I have one little thing. If you're going to do that whole like ask yourself a question thing to be me, can you give me my accent? Like, you have to do my voice. Like, you have to be like, what's motion?
You don't sound like that. You're just a little.
I also don't ask those questions. Eastern, you think ish? I've been working on it. I know you have made me very insecure about the way I talk. So,
oh my gosh.
For those listening, if my accent bothers you, let me know, and I'll get a voice coach and work on that.
I don't think you have that much.
I try not to have it. Do it. All right. That being said, Tom Brady does not have an accent. He just sounds just like good old American. Well, he was in the broadcast booth. He made his big debut. But how did he really, truly do? We bring on our sports media reporter, Andrew Marchand, to join the show next. We'll be right back. All right, back here on Scoop City. So, Chase, we know besides seeing the debut of all the young rookie quarterbacks and all the new head coaches, there was so much excitement about finally being able to see Tom Brady in the booth in his first year. We know he signed with Fox on that 10-year, $375 million deal.
How much money? Say it again. Say it again.
10 years, $375 million bucks.
$37.5 million. Let's go.
Yeah, it's a good life if you can get it. And if you're Tom Brady, why not, right? And so we thought, why not bring on our senior writer covering sports media? He is hands down the best in the game at covering sports media. Andrew Marchand, thanks for joining Scoop City. It's fun to be here with you. It's football season for us. And we had no plans of really diving into this section because you own the sports media world. You have your own podcast. You're writing about this all the time. But we just thought we'd get your thoughts on what you thought of Tom Brady's debut. So why don't we just start there, Andrew? What'd you think?
I thought he sounded like a rookie. He was a little bit stilted in his, how he spoke, especially at the beginning. But I think it's to be expected. I think a lot of times when we look at, I covered baseball for a long time, so there's always big contracts and big free agents, and kind of when someone has that type of contract, they're never supposed to strike out. They're supposed to hit a home run every single time. They're still human beings. So you could grade Brady on he's the number one analyst. He's got this contract that's close to $400 million. He's the greatest player of all time. And you know what? There's no curve. But I look at it as, it wasn't great, but you're really working towards the Super Bowl. Now, February 9th, Fox, it's a Super Bowl year for Fox. He and Kevin Burkhardt will be in the studio. In the booth. And if he has a performance like yesterday that day, I think I'll write a column that he won't want to put on his refrigerator. But right now, as a rookie, first time out, was it great? No, but it wasn't terrible. Like, if you look at social media, I think it was too much. I think I think you have to be realistic. It's a different muscle, and the one thing I would say is that most players and who get to the where Tom Brady got to, they dream about playing in a Super Bowl, not broadcasting a Super Bowl, and so they don't necessarily have that muscle memory that you or I, Dianna. I mean, Chase, you're in the different equation here in terms of how we watch a game. So that's something he has to learn, and when to get in, when to get out, and how to get the fundamentals down at the broadcast.
Yeah. I'm glad you because I do watch it from a completely different standpoint than probably a lot of people. So that was going to be my question because, Andrew, broadcasting is subjective, right? Like I listened to it and I was like, man, this is awesome. Yeah, he was a little nervous at times. Yeah, and that's to be expected. And I read what you wrote. I thought it was pretty fair, to be honest with you. But what separates a good broadcaster from a great broadcaster in your opinion? Because when I'm looking at it, like I was saying, I liked what I was hearing, but what did you judge him on mostly?
Yeah, I would say number one is that you got to bring fans inside what you know and we don't, right? You're going to know, you played in the NFL, right? You know football at a level that I have, no idea. Dianna has closer to the knowledge that you have, but it's still different, I would say. She can correct me. As a reporter compared to someone who was, studying the playbook every day. So what I think you want to do is, the example I always use is a 7 route. You should say, he ran a 7 route. It's called a 7 route because it looks like a 7. And that's what we want to know. Now, he had Brady in the first half, second quarter, he had a moment where he said, and I'd never heard this term before, but he said, these are called breather plays, where they had Dak rolling out and trying to get away from Myles Garrett. And so, he could have done a little bit more there, but that was something that I thought was really good because I've never heard the term breather plays. It makes sense. Yep. It's inside, but you have to be able to tell it in a simple way. So, you can't just get too nuanced in terms of terminology, but something complicated, make it simple, do it quick.
So something that I think is really interesting in regards to Tom Brady, because he's involved with potentially owning a percentage of the Las Vegas Raiders, the league made a decision that he cannot be part of production meetings. And I've sat in production meetings before and I know the value of them. I understand them. 90% of what you talk about in production meetings actually never really gets on the air. It's really to just try to understand philosophy, and in some cases, decision making on why teams are doing certain things. And of course, to get to know players specifically. And even get to know new coaches if you're unfamiliar with them. So it's valuable access that you're getting on a broadcast team. He's not getting it. How do you think that this affected his first performance?
Yeah, I don't think it does, personally. Two things. If Tom Brady, Chase, you can answer this for me. If you're starting for Denver and he texted you during the week and said, hey, you got 5 minutes to get on the phone with me? I got a feeling you're going to text
I'm getting on.
Exactly. So I think he can
right away.
So I think he has access that way. Number two, could he be asking questions that are good questions, and would the coaches and players say more if he was in there? Yes. They're going to say more to Tom Brady than they are to Kevin Burkhardt or Aaron Andrews or Tom Rinaldi. That said, those guys can come back and talk to Tom and say this is what they said in the production meeting. So I think that's slightly overrated in terms of, and you mentioned that 9 out of 10 times you're not going to use the stuff that they say in there. So I don't think that really hurts them. And if I would make the argument probably, and I get it, I mean, NFL, so, they're pretty heavy handed, so they have to, put their 2 cents in on everything. But the reasoning for them to do that, there's rules with ownership, etc. So I can maybe understand that. But I would say the players and coaches are going to be more disappointed not to talk to Tom Brady than it's going to hurt his broadcast. Like, I think those guys would want to talk to. They don't want to talk to most of us. They'd want to talk to Tom Brady if they get the chance.
That's so good. Yeah. So take us inside to what you're like, because you've done this for a long time at the Post, at ESPN, now with the Athletic, and you have your own. I mean, you're everywhere, man. And your hashtag, I think, is awesome. It's like everyone wants to cover sports media. It's like sometimes I try to give my 2 cents. I'm like, wait, I don't want to get hashtagged. Okay, so I don't want to do it. So I want to ask you what your hopes are for what Brady can become, because this is game one. Where do you see this going the rest of the season, concluding with the Super Bowl in New Orleans, which Fox has?
I think it's going to come down to, can he be himself? And is there a guy who's just a regular dude? Now, he seems beloved by all his ex-teammates, by players around the league. I did a story for The Athletic about his preparation. So, I had a lot of sourcing in there in terms of, and to a person, they all love Tom Brady and only could say what a great teammate he is, how hard he's working. So all those things can be true. That said, he does not live a normal life. He can't live a normal life. He's probably in the top 10 most famous people, at least in the United States, maybe the world. So can he be relatable? Like, I thought there were some opportunities, that, especially with Kevin Burkhardt, who's excellent, who's a good team guy, who's going to try to make him better, where he could have been a little more relatable. And that's where you get into, is that in him to be kind of that relaxed, in the booth, I'm enjoying the game. Now, I think some people said, like, he didn't come across passionate about football. I disagree. Like, I think you felt that. It just wasn't, like, you could hear him in the background when Burkhardt was calling some touchdowns. He's like, oh. And it's like, which is kind of cool because Tom Brady, it's not exactly fundamentally you want to lay out there and then say it after. And he'll do that. But I do think he's enthusiastic about the game. But it's that you can't be thinking about it. Even, doing games is the hardest thing you could probably do in terms of football broadcasting. But even here, you guys, we're all like talking now, but we're thinking about what we're going to say next, right? And so it needs to be not what Burkhardt tees him up for, more of like what he sees and then says it and says it simply, yes. And so that's what you'll look to see.
I think that's the challenge too, right? It's also a muscle that you have and that you've built all these years. He spent 20 years or so being told don't share, especially in New England, right? All his press conferences, and I've covered so many of them, it was all about saying less, say little, share nothing. So now you're in a space where you're being asked to reveal all. So I just think the potential is there. I think by Halloween, he's going to be fabulous. I just think he has to just get used to with, tell us, explain this, take us inside. Chase, really a lot of the stuff that you and I talk about as friends of trying to improve our podcast, and because it's not natural for you. It is not natural for an athlete to be revealing. So I think once you get past that hump, that's where all the good stuff is. And that's why you see a lot of older players or players that haven't been on the field for some time shift into that next category of being elite at it, because they're more comfortable and detached from playing the game.
Yeah, and I would say if you say who's the best, and he's not a game, but like Charles Barkley is the best, in terms of, like I had a big discussion with Boomer Esiason a couple months back about, and I told Boomer, like, he'd be on the list if you did of great playing careers / broadcasting careers. So I'm combining your, how great a player you are and so Boomer's had a very long broadcasting career, big time talk show host in New York, CBS, did a Super Bowl on TV, did a million on radio, and then, was an all-pro quarterback. You look at Brady, he could he's obviously the greatest, considered the greatest player of all time. Now you go into the booth, how much does he want to say? I will tell you, if you ask me what's the biggest red flag, I'd say the biggest red flag that I saw this weekend were on the set pieces. He was on the halftime of Texas, Michigan with Joel Klatt. Didn't really say much. He was on the pregame. Didn't really say much. And those are easier formats because you're told the questions, you go over what you're going to say, and he was a little bit, like you just said, Dianna, a little player speak, as opposed to, you got to think like a media member. We're looking at the game differently than how you look at the game. It's like a totally different mentality of an athlete as compared to an analyst or a reporter. And so that's what he's got to learn.
Those set pieces are harder than you think, though, right? Yeah. Like when you know the studio part, even when you know it, it's still difficult because I do think a lot of inexperienced people memorize. And I will bet you they went through it with him and he was memorizing. And then when you memorize, you come off robotic. Yeah. So, look, the growth is there. I think we all know this. Those set pieces will be part of his career. But truly what we're going to judge him on is what he's doing in that booth.
100%.
I have two questions, and I know you're not supposed to do this, Andrew, but you cover sports media, so I'm going to ask you two questions. I know you can handle it.
Okay.
The first one is, why is Tom Brady doing this? He has all the money in the world, regardless of the money, right? Like, he's a 10% owner of the Raiders. Why is he deciding? Because I want everyone to understand how insanely crazy the preparation is for calling a game. Brady has everything. Why is he doing this?
I mean, you took money off the table. I do think, and I was told this, like, I was the one who reported the 10-year, $375 million contract, and one of the people who I was speaking to then about, when I reported that, it kept going higher and higher. And so I think you have to start with that. Like, again, we can talk about videos, and look, Fox did do a good job, because the one thing that's misunderstood, and I think this was misunderstood in ESPN's pursuit of Peyton Manning for years, even though they ended up getting him by letting him do whatever he wants, so I'm going to contradict myself slightly. But most quarterbacks, most players want to plan. What are you going to do for the 6 days to get me ready for day 7, and then I'm going to perform? And I think Fox did a good job of convincing Brady that, you know what, this is how we're going to prepare you. This is our success. At that point, they couldn't point to Greg Olson's success, but now you can in terms of how they got him ready. So I think that's one thing. But ultimately, I think, and this is why, like, you always still hear, could he come back to play? It's hard to replace playing. There's just nothing like it that you can do in your post-playing career. Maybe coach is the closest thing, but that competitive edge. And you hit on it early, and this is the problem for Brady. It's subjective, right? And so getting off to a slow start is not great. I mean, what helped Tony Romo a lot, he started really strong, and people loved him right away, and so then you're working from there. Now he's working a little uphill. The one thing I would say, and I wrote this in the column, I think, you go on social media and you kind of feel like that might be reality, and I don't really think that's reality. Yes, for the diehards, the people are talking about on podcasts like us, yeah, we're focused on it. But the average person might have heard, oh, Brady wasn't that great. Okay, they'll give him a chance. February 9th, Super Bowl, New Orleans, where he had his first Super Bowl 2002 as a player. He's going to be in the booth. He needs to be ready for that, because if he's still sounding like he did the other day, they have a problem.
So my second question is his head coach, Bill Belichick. Why is he everywhere? Why is he deciding to do every little possible thing? Is it a image makeover? Is it because he really loves it that much? Do you see him going back into coaching, or is he getting paid an absurd amount of money to do what he's doing?
Well, Chase, hopefully you'll like this, because I'm not going to say who, but somebody in the business texted me and said, who knew that Bill Belichick post-coaching was going to be Chase Daniel in terms of having a million gigs?
This has been the best guest appearance we have ever had. Andrew, I
made it
love
in the same sentence as Bill Belichick. Yeah. Amazing.
There's only one person thirstier than Chase Daniel, and it is Bill Belichick.
It worked. I got a job with Fox. It worked.
So, yeah, he's doing a lot. Like, look, I think what happens is they start sending these checks to you, and they add up to 7 figures, and then you get another one, and you get another one, and you get another one, and it's like, oh, and all I have to do is talk for a couple, once a week. You're working. I think you're working hard, and he is. So, yeah, I think that's what happens. I think that he's getting paid a lot of money, and he's showing his personality a little. It's kind of, I find him interesting, because I'd say he's showing his personality, but he's sort of like himself, and then everyone around him. He's around McAfee. He'll be around the Mannings, and they kind of show their personalities, and he's still him. Kind of have that curmudgeon old guy. But he does have a lot of football knowledge, and you do care what he says. When we talk about Brady, Belichick has shown a little bit more. Studio's a little bit easier. You just want to bring us places that we can't go. That's like our job as reporters, and as analysts, it's your job. Show me things I can't see.
I definitely think this whole media tour that he's doing is absolutely fascinating. And Chase and I have talked about this, and I actually do think this is why Chase likes the media as well. This person close to Bill said he wants to contribute because he loves the game so much. He almost doesn't know what to do with free time. So he's looking at it as, I might as well just go do this. It keeps me in the game. It keeps me part of it. And so from that side of it, it works, and it sure doesn't hurt that that he's making a lot of money.
100%. And he probably doesn't have a lot of hobbies. Like, that's the thing. I mean, he's been coaching football, like, you know.
Football. Football's his hobby.
His hobby's football. So
Kids
what
are
else
grown.
is he gonna do?
It's true. I know that Chase mentioned before that, you know, you don't want to get hashtagged by you. You don't. It's just like it's almost like the big block when you're in the media. You hashtagged me though. You did it to me on Friday. So I
You
tweeted.
got hashtagged?
I did. You didn't
Yo!
see it? Andrew came on
What?
hot. I was like, man. So
What did you say?
Chase-
I
Oh, was
forgot.
it the Philly Wives thing? Was it the Philly
so
Wives
Chase,
thing?
did
yeah,
you
that
see
was
that
good.
story?
Yeah, that was good. Yeah, that was good.
So Zach Berman had his wife back in Philadelphia tweeting for him, and she became this just aggressive competitive reporter through the 3 days of doing it. And I just loved her story because it was so funny to me that she was so into it. So then I saw that you gave me a little, everyone
That's
wants to cover this.
fun.
Well, and also,
God.
for the record, that it is done in fun because the point is two things. Is that, like, I covered media, went to ESPN. I've always wanted to get back to media. Did get back with the Post, now at The Athletic. But trying to convince people that, hey, this is going to be something people are going to really like was harder. So that's like a little inside joke for me. But the other point is that I've done it to LeBron James. And everyone has an opinion on sports media, and they just don't know how much they like it. Everyone
Correct.
is
It's
talking
so
about.
true.
So it's sort of, you know,
Oh.
and that's, yeah, Schefter I get a lot. I get Schefter.
Earn your turf, though. Like, you're
I have
protecting
a
your turf. You
question,
should.
though.
Yes.
Because you already mentioned me before we let you go. Before this is going to be fun.
Oh, God.
Diana has no clue I'm going to do this. Before we let you go, you mentioned me in the same sentence as Bill Belichick, life complete.
Mm-hmm.
Have you watched any of my stuff, and what critique, if you're doing an on-air critique, what would you critique me at? What do I need
This
to
is
be
why I
better
love
at,
this
Andrew?
man.
Give it to me
This is why
right
I love
now.
him. He wants to be coached.
Don't
He
hold
loves
back.
it.
He wants to be coached.
See,
Yeah, Brady.
this is
Brady
serious.
wants to be coached too. No, I think you're doing good
Yes.
work, man. You keep getting gigs. Look, I think the most important thing, and you're doing this right, you want to be your authentic self, especially in this format. Like, I think that's what people like. That's what they're drawn to. And like, getting back to full circle, I know Chase. I feel it. You like to make it about Chase. Is that true, Diana?
No, Chase
No.
is
Oh.
No, not at all. Chase
Oh, I
is
thought I had some
very. No, Chase
Sorry,
is
Chase.
really. He's a
I'm the
backup
opposite.
quarterback, right? So he has
Fair
that
enough.
mentality.
Fair enough.
I'm a giver.
All right,
I'm
well,
a
you
giver.
asked about Chase, so I thought maybe. All right. Well, the point is that, like, the point I would make, though, is getting back to, it's kind of similar to Brady. I just think that's what people want. You guys have experience that we don't. And, you know, being able to share that is really the key. So that would be my 2 cents. And you're doing it.
Yeah, I like it. Thank you.
Just look at that stamp of approval from Andrew Marchand. Take that one, man. I would put that in your Twitter bio. Tweet it actually right now. I'm sure you already did.
Tweet that thing.
All right, Andrew. Thank you so much. We value your opinion, your thoughts. This was fun. Let's have you on again. You are a resident of Scoop City. Welcome.
Let's go.
Thank you. My pleasure.
All right, thanks. All right, that'll do it for us here on Scoop City. It is going to be a fun season. We got another show coming up on Friday. We got games, so get some sleep, a little bit of sleep, because we're going to be right back at this on Thursday night. We will see you next time.
Bye, guys. Tag me next time.
Thanks for tuning into Scoop City. If you want to hear more, make sure you like and subscribe. We drop our new episodes every Tuesday and Friday.